Wine sat quietly on the edge of the bed, holding her breath as Jungkook handed her some medicine. His movements abrupt and his gaze unwavering. He settled beside her, but there was an obvious tension in the air. His expression severe. Did you take the pregnancy test? His tone was firm, almost demanding, making Wine's heart race. She looked down, nodding slowly, and forced herself to speak, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, I did. I have not had my period and I keep feeling nauseous. Chunguk's lips pressed together in a hard line as he nodded. His response was short and to the point, almost as if he had already made up his mind. All right, we are going to the gynecologist tomorrow. Wine's chest tightened as she looked at him, searching for any hint of warmth in his face, but found none. Her voice trembled as she dared to ask, "Are you going to make me a boy?" Chunguk's expression darkened, his jaw clenching as he leaned closer. The coldness in his eyes sharper now. "Listen, I was drunk, okay? I know I made a mistake and I'm sorry, but don't fool yourself. You can't handle this right now." His words struck her like a slap. She felt a tear slip down her cheek. As her heart ached at his harshness, she knew he would not listen to her. He never did when he was like this, but still, she found herself whispering, hoping he might understand. But I. Chunguk's gaze hardened, cutting her off before she could continue. "Enough, go to sleep. We will deal with this tomorrow." And just like that, he stood up and walked out, not sparing her a second glance, leaving Wine alone with her swirling thoughts and unspoken fear. The next morning, Wine quietly made her way to the kitchen. She prepared breakfast, arranging it neatly on the table. As Jungkook entered, his expression as guarded as ever. He sat down without a word, picking up his coffee, and Wine joined him. Her eyes lingering on him, searching for any hint of warmth or understanding. As they ate in silence, Wine gathered her courage, her voice soft but determined. "Jungkook, I just wanted to talk about, last night." He looked up, his face unreadable, a sigh escaping his lips as he set down his cup. "Wine, listen, I told you before. I was careless and I regret it. But I don't want to drag you into something you are not ready for." Wine frowned, struggling to find the right words. She wanted him to understand her feelings, but it was like he would already made up his mind. "But what if I want this? What if I can't handle it? I know it's difficult, but..." Chungok's gaze hardened slightly and he shook his head. "You don't get it, Wine. You already have enough to deal with here. And this is just going to weigh you down even more. I'm not going to put that on you." She felt her heart sink at his words. His concern sounded almost like a barrier he was putting up. One she couldn't cross. I understand you are worried, but I think we should decide this together. Jungkook looked at her with a mix of frustration and sadness, his voice firmer now. No, wine, I have made up my mind. I can't let you carry this burden because of my mistake. With that, he finished his breakfast, leaving Wine alone at the table. Feeling the weight of his decision pressed down on her, it was as if he had already closed the door on their conversation, leaving her to wonder if he would ever let her in. Chogo glanced at his watch, his tone impatient as he looked at Wine. All right, hurry up, let's go. We are running late. Wine nodded quickly, grabbing her bag and following him outside. The chilly morning air brushed against her as she climbed into Jungkook's car. The ride was mostly silent, the hum of the engine the only sound. As Wine anxiously played with the edge of her coat, Jungkook's jaw was set. His eyes focused on the road ahead, his fingers tapping on the steering wheel in a rhythmic pattern. After a short drive, they arrived at the gynecologist's office. Jungkook held the door open for her. His expression unreadable, they walked into the examination room where the doctor greeted them warmly. Good morning, Mr. John. It's fine. I understand you're here to confirm some test results. Jungkook's voice was firm, his gaze steady. His expression unreadable, they walked into the room. Yes, we need confirmation on whether she's pregnant. The doctor nodded, scanning her notes before looking back at them. Of course, based on the initial symptoms and her missed period, it's quite possible. I will just run a quick ultrasound to confirm. As the doctor prepared, Jungkook leaned forward, his voice low and serious. Doctor, let's say the results are positive. What options do we have? The doctor glanced at him, her expression calm and professional. Well, if it's confirmed, you will have a few options to consider. Termination is one, but I always encourage my patients to think it through. It's a big decision for both parties. Jungkook nodded, his face tense and Wine bit her lip. Feeling a nervous flutter in her stomach as she listened, she watched Jungkook, hoping he might soften a bit, but he remained focused on the doctor. If we choose not to continue, how soon could an alternative be scheduled? Typically, we would conduct a few tests to make sure she's healthy and fit. But Mr. June, this decision isn't just about logistics, it's important to make sure both of you are emotionally prepared for it. Why could feel a weight of Chung's decision settling over them both. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but hesitated. Watching as Jungkook's gaze remained fixed on the doctor, Just then, Jungkook's phone vibrated loudly, and he frowned, glancing down at the screen. With a slight scowl, he muttered, "Excuse me," before stepping out to take the call. Leaving Wine and the doctor alone, the doctor turned to Wine with a gentle look, her voice softening. "How are you feeling about all of this? It's a lot to take in." Wine hesitated, her voice shaky. I'm not sure, but I feel like I should have a say too. The doctor nodded, offering a reassuring smile. "And you do, if you need support, I'm here to help however I can." Wine looked at the door where Jungkook had just disappeared, her heart heavy, wondering how much of a say she really had in this decision. Jungkook stood just outside the doctor's office, his phone pressed to his ear as he engaged in a tense business call. "Sir, the investors are expecting a decision by noon. They're not willing to wait." Jungkook sighed, rubbing his temple, his tone clipped. "Tell them I will get back to them later. We have already discussed this. If they don't like the terms, they can find another project." "Understood, sir, but they're getting impatient. They are looking for a firm commitment." Jungkook rolled his eyes, frustration building. "I don't have time for their impatience right now. Just tell them I will deal with it when I'm back to the office." As he spoke, his attention was suddenly pulled away by the sight of a couple sitting on a bench nearby. The woman looked heartbroken, wiping tears from her cheeks, while the man beside her looked equally defeated, his arm around her in a gesture of comfort. The caller was still talking, but Jungkook barely registered it as he listened to the couple's quiet, sorrowful conversation. All those treatments, all that hope, and for what? Another no. Her voice cracked, her disappointment raw. "I know, love. We tried everything, but it doesn't change the fact that the doctor said." He paused, swallowing hard. "The doctor said it's impossible." The woman shook her head, her voice barely a whisper. "It just doesn't feel fair. We would have done anything for a child." "Anything." The man tightened his arm around her, his voice heavy with emotion. "We still have each other, and maybe we could adopt someday." She tried to smile but couldn't hide her sadness. "I know, but I always imagined having a family, a child that's part of both of us." Chunguk felt a knot form in his chest. As he listened, their pain was palpable. Something he had not thought about before. Here were two people who would give anything for the chance. He was ready to discard. His caller's voice broke through his thoughts. "Sir, did you hear what I said?" Jungkook's jaw clenched as he pulled himself back to the present. Cancel the meeting. I will deal with it tomorrow. He ended the call abruptly, his mind still reeling from the couple's conversation. As he stood there, he felt a sense of clarity he had not felt before. He would been so focused on avoiding responsibility, on pushing wine away because of his fears, that he had not considered the true value of what they would create. Maybe this child was an opportunity, not a burden. The idea of forcing wine to go through an abortion felt more painful now, especially after hearing the longing in the couple's voices. He couldn't deny it any longer. This child deserved a chance, and maybe so did he. With a deep breath, his decision now firm, Jungkook turned back toward the office, a new determination in his eyes. He would tell Vine he wouldn't force her into anything she didn't want. It was time he stopped running from this. Jungkook took a deep breath, stepping back into the examination room with a new resolve. He met the doctor's gaze and said, "Sorry, doctor, we have some work to take care of. We will visit next time." Before the doctor could respond, he turned and walked out, gently pulling Wine with him. Confused, Wine followed him, her mind racing as they headed to the car. Once inside, Jungkook started the engine, but Wine couldn't contain her surprise. Are we going back? We didn't even find out anything. Jungkook gripped the steering wheel tightly. His jaw set as he drove. The tension in the car was thick, and Wine felt her heart race with uncertainty. Just a few minutes into the drive, Jungkook slammed on the brakes, pulling the car to a sudden stop at the side of the road. The abrupt motion startled Vine as she looked at him wide eyed. Jungkook turned to her, his expression serious but firm. "I did it, Vine. I messed up and I need to take responsibility for it." Her breath catched in her throat as the weight of his words sank in. "Responsibility? What do you mean?" Her eyes met with him, determination blazing in his eyes. "I mean, if you're pregnant, then it's my fault. I can't just pretend it didn't happen or push you into something you don't want. I want to be there for you and for our child." Wine's heart raced at his admission, her mind reeling. "You are serious, but I thought." Jungkook interrupted her, his voice steady. "I know what I said before, but I can't just walk away from this. We need to figure it out together. No more running. I want to support you no matter what you decide." Tears pricked at the corner of Vine's eyes, a mixture of relief and disbelief floating through her. You really want this?" He nodded, his voice softening as he reached for her hand. Yes, I want this. I want you and our child. I know it won't be easy, but we can face it together. The sincerity in his voice made her heart swell, and for the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope. Okay, together then. Jungkook squeezed her hand, a faint smile breaking through his serious demeanor as he resumed driving. Determination and resolve lighting up his face. They were on a new path now, one they would navigate together. When Jungkook and Vine arrived home, the atmosphere felt different, charged with unspoken possibilities. Vine was about to head to the kitchen to start her usual chores when Jungkook stopped her, a serious look on his face. Wait, you are not doing any work right now? Vine blinked in surprise, hesitating, but I have to. Jungkook shook his head, his tone firm. No, you need rest. We need to talk about everything that's happened, and I don't want you overworking yourself. As White stood there, processing his words, Amelia and the maid was nearby, overhearing their conversation. She couldn't help but feel a twinge of jealousy as she watched Jungkook's protectiveness toward Vine. Why was he treating her differently? Amelia had always admired Jungkook from afar, and the sight of him being so attentive to Vine stung. Before Vine could respond, Jungkook turned back toward the main area of the house and called out. All maids gathered in the living room. Vine's heart raced at the suddenness of his command, her mind spinning with possibilities. What could he be planning? A few moments later, the maids gathered, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. Jungkook stood at the front, Vine beside him, feeling both nervous and excited. Jungkook cleared his throat, commanding the attention of everyone in the room. I have an important announcement to make. Amelia crossed her arms, her brow furrowed. What could it possibly be? She leaned in, eager to hear what he had to say. Jungkook continued, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Tonight I'm getting married to wine. A shocked silence fell over the room, the air thick with disbelief. Amelia's eyes widened, her voice coming out in a strangled whisper. What? This bitch, huh? Jungkook turned sharply, his expression darkening. Watch your mouth, Amelia. Wine is not just a maid. She is going to be my wife. You will treat her with respect. The other maids exchanged surprised glances. And mine felt a rush of emotions, shock, joy, and a flare of anxiety. She looked at Jungkook, her heart pounding. This was happening. They were stepping into a new life together. Amelia's disbelief and jealousy were palpable, but White couldn't let it dampen her happiness. Jungkook held Wine's hand firmly, signaling to everyone in the room that his decision was final and he wouldn't tolerate any disrespect. He would protect her, and together they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the initial shock of Jungkook's announcement settled over the room, Wine felt a mix of emotions swirling inside her. She turned to Jungkook, her voice a whisper but filled with uncertainty. Why are you marrying me? What will people think? Jungkook looked into her eyes, his expression softening as he understood her fears. He stepped closer, speaking earnestly. I'm marrying you because I want to, Wine. You have always been there for me, and I want to take responsibility for our future. It doesn't matter what others think. The other maids watched, their expressions shifting from shock to curiosity, but Jungkook continued, focused solely on Wine. People will have their opinions no matter what, but I care about you. What matters to me is that we are making this choice together. Wine felt her heart race at his words. But I'm just a maid. This is sudden. Jungkook shook his head, a hint of frustration in his tone. You are so much more than just a maid. You are strong, kind, and you have shown me a side of myself I didn't know existed. I can't ignore that. He paused, his gaze intense. I don't want to hide this anymore. I want to be with you. And if that means facing judgment, then so be it. I'm ready to stand by your side. Amelia shifted uncomfortably at the sight of their connection, her jealousy flaring up again. But Jungkook's words only fortified Vine's resolve. She felt a warmth spread through her, a mix of hope and disbelief. Vine took a deep breath, her heart beginning to settle. I just don't want you to regret this. Jungkook reached out, cupping her face gently in his hands. I won't regret it. I promise you that. Together we can face anything. His sincerity washed over her like a comforting wave, and for the first time, she began to believe that maybe this was the right path. She looked into his eyes, seeing the determination there, and felt her fears start to fade. With a note, she found her voice again, filled with newfound courage. Okay, then, together. Jungkook smiled, relieved, floating his features as he pulled her into a gentle embrace, feeling the weight of the world lift just a little as they prepared to take this step together. 8 months had passed since Wine and Jungkook's wedding, and in that time, Wine had experienced a whirlwind of changes. The couple settled into their new life, and while most of the household staff had embraced Wine with warmth and support, Amelia remained cold and distant. Jealousy simmered beneath the surface as she watched Jungkook dodge and Wine. His attention unwavering, Wine often received kind gestures from the other maids, who treated her like family, offering help and sharing in her joys and struggles. They would bring her meals, offer to run errands, and ask how she was feeling. But Amelia, the only one who had hard-boiled feelings for Chongo, could only watch from a distance, sitting quietly. Sitting on the sofa one afternoon, Wine felt content, a sense of peace wrapping around her like a warm blanket. Jungkook was beside her, scrolling through his phone as they chatted about their plans for the upcoming days. The sunlight streamed through the window, casting a soft glow around them, and Wine couldn't help but smile at the thought of their growing family. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through her abdomen, causing her to gasp and clutch her stomach. Jungkook's head snapped up, his attention immediately focused on her. Wine, what's wrong? She tried to breathe through the discomfort, but it intensified, making her vision blur for a moment. I don't know, it hurts. Jungkook's face turned serious as he quickly set his phone aside and moved closer. We need to get you to the doctor. Can you stand? Wyan nodded, but as she attempted to rise, another wave of pain hit her, causing her to wince. Jungkook immediately stood, his expression uh, mix of concern and determination. I have got you, come. He wrapped his arm around her waist and took her in his arms. As they made their way to the door, Wine's mind raced with worry. Was this normal? Should she be feeling this way? As they walked through the hallway, Amelia caught sight of them. Her heart sank at the sight of Wine in distress, but a wicked thought crossed her mind. This is the perfect opportunity to undermine her. Amelia stopped and, feeling concerned, started talking. What's going on? Is she okay, Jungkook? Jungkook shot her a warning look, his patience wearing thin. This isn't the time, Amelia. Why needs some medical attention? Amelia pressed on, a smirk barely hidden behind her facade. But are you sure she's fit to go out? I mean, shouldn't someone stay with her? What if something happens? Jungkook's voice dropped to a low firestone. If you are trying to create drama right now, you can leave. Wine comes first. She's my priority. The tension in the air was palpable, and Wine felt grateful for Jungkook's protectiveness. But the pain was becoming harder to ignore. Jungkook would really need to go. He nodded, leading her out the door, Amelia's chest clear burning into their backs as they left. Jungkook helped Wine into the car, his worry evident in every careful movement he made. I will drive fast, just hold on, okay? As he sped off toward the hospital, Wine couldn't shake the feeling that Amelia's jealousy was about to erupt, but for now, All that mattered was getting the help she needed. The world outside blurred past them, but in that moment, all one could focus on was Jungkook's unwavering presence by her side. After what felt like an eternity filled with anxious moments and deep breaths, one finally welcomed their twins into the world. The delivery room buzzed with activity, but all Wine could focus on was the overwhelming joy that filled her heart as she heard the soft cries of her babies. Jungkook stood beside her, his eyes wide with awe and disbelief. He held Vine's hand tightly, whispering words of encouragement throughout the labor, and now he was utterly enchanted by the tiny beings cradled in the nurse's arms. When the nurse placed the baby first, a little girl with a tuft of dark hair into Vine's arms, tears of joy streamed down her cheeks. Oh, look at her. She's so beautiful. Chubuk leaned closer, his heart swelling as he gazed at their daughter. She's perfect, wine, just like her mother. As they marveled at their firstborn, the nurse bowed over the second baby. Oh, look at her. She's so beautiful. A boy with a matching tuft of hair. Wine's heart nearby brushed with love as she took him in her other arm. And here is our little prince. Jungkook chuckled, his laughter ringing through the room, a sound filled with pure happiness. Two of them, I can't believe we did it. They exchanged a glance, a mix of disbelief and joy lightening up their faces. The weight of the world felt lighter now, and all the struggles they had faced melted away in the warmth of this moment. Jungkook gently kissed Wine's forehead, his voice filled with emotion. You are amazing, Wine. I can't even express how proud I am of you. Wine smiled, feeling a rush of warmth at his words. We did this together, Jungkook, our little family. He nodded, unable to hide the joy radiating from his expression. They took turns admiring their twins, marveling at every little feature, their tiny fingers, their soft cheeks, and the way they instinctively curled up against Wime's warmth. As the nurse stepped away to give them a moment of privacy, Jungkook sat on the edge of the bed. His heart full, he looked at Wine, his voice tender. Can you believe this? We have a daughter and a son, our own little team. Wine nodded, her heart swelling with pride and love. They're going to change our lives together. Jungkook took a moment to gather his thoughts, his eyes never leaving Wine's face. I promise to be the best father I can be. I will always be there for them, for you. Feeling a rush of affection, Wine leaned closer, resting her head against his shoulder, and he promised to be by your side no matter what. In that moment, surrounded by the new life they had created, everything felt right. They were a family now, and no matter what challenges lay ahead, They would face them together with love guiding their way. As they held their twins close, the hospital room transformed into a sanctuary filled with love, laughter, and the promise of beautiful memories yet to come.